The Atlantic was calm that morning, but no one aboard the transport felt at ease. The ship cut through the water with a low metallic groan, and the German prisoners, exhausted, unshaven, their uniforms faded from months of fighting, stood packed along the rail. Their eyes followed the endless horizon as if the waves themselves carried answers they couldn't find, distant engines rumbling, boots clacking on steel deck, wind pushing across canvas tarps. An American sailor walked past them, rifle slung casually over his shoulder. He wasn't tense, just watchful. Many of the prisoners quietly noted that the guards looked almost too relaxed, nothing like the harsh propaganda German officers had drilled into them. Among the POWs, a young radio operator named Ernst inhaled the cold ocean air and whispered to the man beside him, "Where do you think they're taking us? England? Canada?" His friend, Weber, shook his head. "No. I heard the officers say it last night. America." Ernst blinked as if the word itself didn't make sense. "America? They're sending us across the world." Weber gave a quiet, defeated laugh. "We lost the war the moment we stepped onto this ship. They just didn't tell us until now." Below deck, the scent of diesel mingled with damp clothes and metal. The steady thump of the engines vibrated through the wooden benches where the prisoners tried to rest. Some clutched photographs, wives, mothers, children, while others stared blankly, too tired to think. Up on the deck, an American petty officer checked the manifest, flipping pages clipped to a slate board. 71 accounted for, he muttered, then glanced at the silent group. "Hardly say a word, these guys." Another sailor replied, "They're scared. Most of them think we're gonna starve them. Nazi propaganda did a number on them." The petty officer shrugged. "Well, they'll see soon enough." Distant gulls, soft radio static from the bridge. Night fell slowly, the sky melting into deep blue while the convoy's escort ship, an older vessel like the USS Knoxville, kept its position off the transport's starboard side. The glow of its running lights shimmered on the black water. To the Germans, the sight was intimidating. To the Americans on watch, it was just another shift. Ernst sat against the bulkhead, knees pulled close, listening to the hum of the ship. "I wonder if the Americans hate us," he said quietly. Weber replied, "They don't look like they do." "That's what frightens me," Ernst whispered. "I don't know what to expect anymore." Above them, the American guards smoked while leaning over the railing. "Feels weird," one said. "Escorting men who tried to kill us a few months back." His partner exhaled smoke into the wind. "War makes enemies. Peace makes men again." For a moment, the only sound was the rolling SEA.BY. The second week, the prisoners began noticing things they never imagined: American sailors passing them water without hesitation, medics checking on sick POWs, food rations far better than they had expected. Some still refused to look their captors in the eye. Others slowly realized they were not being transported to punishment, but simply to somewhere else, somewhere entirely foreign. As the coastline finally appeared, faint shapes at first, then clearer, larger, undeniably real, murmurs rose among the prisoners. Ernst stepped forward, gripping the rail. Buildings. Cars. Water towers. The distant silhouettes of farms. It didn't look anything like the propaganda sketches he had grown up seeing. This is America," he said, voice cracking. Weber swallowed hard. "It's nothing like what they told us." Behind them, an American sailor called out, "Welcome to the States, boys. You're a long way from home." And the German POWs fell silent, not out of fear this time, but from the overwhelming realization that everything was about to change. The train rattled along the tracks, carrying the POWs inland to the camps that would become their temporary homes. The landscape was unlike anything the Germans had imagined: rolling fields, farmhouses with wide porches, towns that seemed peaceful and orderly. For many, it was disorienting. After years of war, the quiet itself felt unnatural. Ernst peered out of the small window, his hands pressed to the glass. "Do you think they hate us?" he asked Weber. Weber shrugged, exhausted but alert. "Some of them, maybe. But most. I don't think so. They treat us like people. That scares me more than bullets ever did." The camp itself was surrounded by fences, guard towers, and watchful American soldiers. but the tension inside was subdued compared to what the Germans had expected. Meals were served on long tables in a mess hall, blankets were issued, and the prisoners were assigned work details, gardening, maintenance, and assisting the camp kitchens. It was not comfortable, but it was life. An American officer, Captain Reynolds, walked along the rows of prisoners during roll call. "You are required to follow the camp rules," he said firmly, "but you will not be mistreated. Understand?" A murmur of acknowledgement passed through the prisoners. Ernst glanced at Weber. "They really mean it, don't they?" "Yes," Weber replied, "and that's the part one can't get used to." Days turned into weeks. Some prisoners started writing letters home, others took up reading, and a few even attempted to learn English. There were moments of camaraderie, forced yet genuine, as American soldiers and POWs navigated the delicate balance of trust, but war never leaves the mind entirely. Night brought dreams of gunfire and explosions. The memory of lost comrades and destroyed towns haunted many. Ernst would wake sweating, whispering the names of men who had been his friends. Weber placed a hand on his shoulder. "We're alive," he said softly. "That's something, at least." One afternoon, a surprise arrived, a shipment of letters from family, each one carrying stories of home. Tears ran down faces hardened by combat, and even the American guards looked away respectfully. It was a reminder that humanity persisted, even across enemy lines. Then came the moments that revealed the fragile bridge between enmity and empathy. A German mechanic named Fritz was assigned to repair farm machinery for the nearby town. An elderly American farmer approached him. "Don't let what they told you poison your mind," the farmer said quietly. "We're all just trying to survive." Fritz hesitated, then nodded. It was a small, almost imperceptible act of reconciliation, but it left a lasting impact. Months passed. The prisoners learned the routines, the camp rhythms, and the small liberties they could earn. They began to see that the Americans were not caricatures of the enemy, but people with families, fears, and hopes. And in return, the Americans saw that these men, once their foes, were more human than the stories had allowed. When the war finally ended, the POWs were allowed to return home. Boarding the trains that would take them back to Europe, many looked back at the camp with a mixture of relief and unexpected gratitude. Ernst turned to Weber. "I never thought I'd say this," he said, "but I'll miss this place." Weber nodded. "It's strange. We fought against them, and yet they showed us more humanity than we ever imagined. Maybe that's what it means to survive a war, not just to live, but to remember how people can still care." As the trains disappeared into the horizon, Captain Reynolds stood by the fence, watching. He knew that war had ended, but the echoes of it would remain. Courage had been tested, lives had been lost, and yet, in the quiet moments between conflict and peace, something enduring had emerged: understanding, compassion, and the realization that even in war, humanity could prevail. And so, the story closed not with a gunshot, but with reflection, on sacrifice, resilience, and the rare but profound moments when enemies could, against all odds, see one another as human.